Hey guys, it's the Warlords, and we did just go Nats this weekend. Hopefully by the time this video is up, I would have posted our reviews and our expectations on Nats, because we did do a before Nats video and a post Nats video with some of the teammates. Some of our mates from locals were there as well, so it was good to see that. And I did go top 16 on it, as you should already know, as I did already specify that. I did actually just barely make it. I got 16th exactly, and this is the deck I went with. This is my Vanguard stride. There is only one thing I want to mention in here is I run the 4 guarantee. Just run if you have the 4 dragons, just run the 4 dragons and 3 guarantees. Not like the way I do it. It's just I was down 1, so I was just like swap it for the other. But this is the way I play the deck. I feel this is probably the most competitive way to play it because of just how aggressive the deck is in early game. Sadly, I did misplay one game, which is what stopped me from hitting that top 8. Teardrop. No worries there, guys, though. Hopefully I'll make it next year for you guys, but now I'm going to show you how I run my deck. And, okay, so for starter, I run Dreaming Jewel Knight Tiffany. This is amazing for columns late game. It enables you to make those 25 columns into 28s and sword me's into 21s, so with how I run my trigger lineup, this just boosts so much. So, Dreaming Jewel Knight Tiffany is our starter. It's Jewel Knight as well, so it helps all your Jewel Knight rearguard to kick in. This is a Jewel Knight based core deck because I do run Sword Me, and Sword Me is what makes the pressure in this deck. Then after that I run 3 Sanctuary Guard Dragon. I did run it at 3 during the tournament because obviously I did only have 3, but if you get the chance, I'd say just take out one of the guarantees and put in a 4th dragon, because that's what I'm doing this weekend. I'm picking up another Mega Trial deck. Ugh, the money. And that'll be this deck finish. So for the moment, I run 3 though. And for some reason, I didn't ever not hit into it, so it did help out. Every time I did get a grade 3, it was him. So that was nice to see. And his secondary skill just makes the deck so much better, because if they do start trying to pop off your rear guards at grade 2, as long as you've got something that is there still, you can just go ride, ditch a card, grab a grade 1, then your whole front row is gaining 12k power. And that's just going to make that grade 2 a 21. So it makes things really big. Then I run the 4 guarantee because it's Vanguard, and Vanguards are nice. This guy, he's 10k base. You don't really want to be hitting into it, which is why I'm saying you want to run the Sanctuary Guard Dragon at 4 over this guy, but I didn't have 4, so I just had to run this guy at 4 because of the Vanguard name. I'd run him over Outmark any day because I always want my Vanguard stride to be going off, and that's what I'm saying. Like, his skills are really bad. You don't ever want to be stuck on just him. If you do have to ride him, make sure you can always stride. He is not a good card. That's the grade 3s. I do only run 7 because this deck, you don't really want to be stuck with all those grade 3s. That it doesn't turn out good. Then I run 4 Sword Mace. Excuse me, guys. The reason I run the Sword Me's is because, well, they're Sword Me's. These guys help generate the columns, the cards early game, and it adds so much pressure to that early game that most decks can't make these days, because most decks now have that GB limit, so they have to wait till turn 7 to make plays. This deck has to wait till turn 2, which is why this deck is so aggressive. But Sword Me is just counterblast 1 Jewel Knight, grab a grade 1 Jewel Knight from your deck and Superior Call it. I can grab those Jewel Knight grade 1s, which is everything but the stride enablers in this deck, so it just makes such great columns. The next grade 2 I run is 4 Knight of Twin Sword, because late game he allows you to hit into more Sword Me's, and then more Sword Me's allow you to hit into more attacks. So this guy just really helps that late game pressure, especially when you're striding with Regal, who just makes huge columns. So anyway, this is the Knight of Twin Sword. The next card is something I don't see many people running, which is why it confuses me. Starlight Violinist. This guy generates such a great early game, because say he's the only grade 2 you got in hand, all you have to do is ride it, counterblast 1, soul blast 1, then you can grab your Sword Me, counterblast another Jewel Knight, and you get a free column from deck without having to use any hand, so he can just generate that field twice as fast as any other deck. Like, when people see me play him, they just get worried because they're just like, they know I'm going to have pretty much a full field by turn 3, and they're not going to have it, so they're just going to be taking so many hits. that's all my grade 2s. Then grade 1s, I run the Dual Knight PGs, because Dual Knight counterblasts are now a thing in this deck, so you do need to run as many Dual Knights as you can. So I run that at 4. Then I run 3 Cymbeline. It's another Dual Knight. This card really makes the deck broke because, like I said, that late game Dual Knight Sword Me play can hit into these, and this guy can pump him by 10,000 because it just says, on call, when it's placed on rearguard, as long as you have 3 other Dual Knight rearguards, rest it and give something plus 10,000. That is very good late game. It can also make that Twin Sword call very big as long as it's boosted by a Dual Knight, because you can just go, so it's 25 at the moment, call the Sword Me, call this, rest this, give that booster the 10,000, then it goes up to 35, and I've actually killed someone by doing that sort of thing. It just makes strategic plays that can just kill people. Especially because most people don't expect it. And then I run the 4 Laurel because, like I said, you only run the 7 grade 3s in this deck, so you can get to points where you do start running low on grade 3s, so it's always good to have the Stride Enablers, and yes, they have to be signed. If they're not signed, you're playing it wrong. Nah, I'm joking with you guys there. And then this card really makes the deck powerful. Shelly, it's the Dual Knight 10k attacker that if you have 3 other Dual Knight rearguards, it becomes a 10k attacker. Mid game, amazing. Late game, amazing. I've actually killed people on this because you can make it 22 on its own. And so she just becomes huge. And that's the grade 1 lineup. Then for triggers, I run 2 criticals. I just run this one for the lols. But you don't need crits in this deck. This is just to add that if they're at 4 damage, I can still crit for game pressure. Just so they won't just sit there and go, okay, no guard. Then after that, I run 2 effect stands. This is just a tech for the plus 3/3, so once I'm out of Shellys, I can still gain that combo off. Then I run 4 Dual Knight stand triggers, because stand triggers is where you want to be hitting in this game, because your late game is just really power based. So these guys are really, really good. Then 4 Dual Knight draw triggers, because you have to run the Dual Knight triggers in this deck. It's just because of Sword Me. Simple as the triggers, and then the Dual Knight heal triggers at 4, because if you don't run heal triggers, you're playing it wrong. Just remember that, guys. So that's all the main deck for today. Now, what I'm going to do is, my extra deck's a little bit different to how some people have played it that I've seen. So firstly, I run 2 Outmile Stride, because this card is a very good stride now. What it says is, on stride, Persona Flip, gains a continuous skill of your whole front row, gains 3,000 power, and then if you have 2 or more face-up G units in your G zone, you can grab a grade 2 for free and give it 5k power. Meaning that with this, say I have no front row. I've already strode once Regal, then they've blown my front row. I can stride into this, grab my Violinist. My Violinist skill then allows me to grab my Twin Sword, and then I've just got a whole field again, and this has gained 8,000, putting it at 16, and this is on a 12 already now. So, and then if you've got a 7k boost behind this, it's a 36, so it just makes huge columns. That stride's very good. I run the 1 Gabblade. I'm actually going to take this out. I've realised this card has no reason to be here now that this is a thing. If anything, I wish this wasn't a Persona Flip, so I could run this at an extra 1. But there's nothing you can do about that. Like, you could run Samuel, but then again, I don't see much point in that, because you would waste too many counterblasts using the Samuel, which you could be using for Sword Me's, Twin Swords, or Violinists. Then I run 2 Saint Blow for the late game crit pressure. This is here if they survive this, basically. So, if they've survived this, they should be out of PGs, so just hit this and you'll pretty much kill them. And then lastly, I run the 3 Regal. This guy is very broke. He makes the deck good. This is the reason why Saint Guard is now popular. It basically says, on strike, continuous skill, as long as you have a heart with Sanctuary Guard in its card name, your whole front row gains 3,000 power for each grade 1 or less rear guard you have. So if you've got a whole field of grade 1s, it's 15k, but I usually try for 4, and then the 1 Twin Sword, because then I can go over it later on and swatch it out. So I'll have 12k, 12k, and then this will go down to 9 once I've done my cool stuff, unless I boost it, obviously, by using Cymbeline. But this deck is so overpowered just because the fact of it's got that early game rush. And early game rush these days is such a hard thing to get, so you really want to try and find a deck that can hit it. and this deck hits it very hard. In my opinion, I went 7-2 with this. One of the games I lost, I misplayed, and the other one, the deck just kind of shat on me, so I couldn't do much in that game. But like another thing is, if you want to play a slightly more aggressive deck than like a consistent, I'm going to have a full field deck, you can chuck, instead of the Violinists, I'd suggest chucking in the 12k Dual Knight Attackers, just because these can hit 21 on their own. But I prefer the consistent, I've got a field deck. I feel it's just a bit better. Anyway guys, this is the deck I went top 16 with at Nats. Sadly, the other two members of the team, the two Bens, they didn't do quite as well. Ben V, he was playing his Mega Colony. He got to top 90. He hit 95th with that because he went 6-3. Apparently, 7-2 was the top 16 cut, and then it went all the way to the hundreds with the 6-3s. And then other Ben, he played his Alka Force, and he just didn't do too well. I think he went top 400. His deck just shat on him all day. I feel sorry for him, but we all tried our best, and the next time we're off, we'll be off to Team League, so we'll try and keep your reports up and all that. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe.